Hey everyone, welcome to my final project presentation. Here are my goals. I want to explore AI-aided electronic dance music production using AI programs such as Gansynth, Magenta Studio, and Sissy. So before we start to listen, I want you to focus on four sounds: the strings, the plucking sound, and the percussions plus the vocals. I will explain the programs and how I use them. So the first one is Gansynth. Gansynth is GAN-based timbre interpolation tool developed by Magenta. It is pre-trained on NSynth dataset. It takes a MIDI file as input and outputs an audio file. Here's the piano roll of the MIDI I feed into Gansynth. This is a guitar MIDI loop transcribed by Ableton's harmonic detection function. So in Gansynth, you are allowed to choose the built-in instruments, of course, when they comes in, and the durations and how much they interpolate. Here's the example of output. So the next tool I use is Magenta Studio. Generate is one of the tools in Magenta Studio. It is a VAE-based drum and melody generation tool. It takes a MIDI file as input and outputs a MIDI file. This is the same MIDI loop I feed in. Configuration I set is variation equals to A, temperatures equals to 1.0, which is by default. So here's the output example. So from this output example, we can see that the kicks are well arranged and other instruments are kind of scattered around. The texture changes more on greater temperature. So here's an example. Here's an output example for melody generation. As we can see, the chords kind of changes from the original MIDI I fed into. Also, the texture kind of changes here, more scale-wise and rhythmic movements on greater temperature. This is another example for melody generation. So you can see this is like a bass pattern, so I use that as a bass. And also, it doesn't follow the original chords. So the next tool I use is Synthi. Synthi is a DMM HMM based singing voice synthesis system. DMM HMM stands for Deep Neural Network Hidden Markov Models, which is widely used for speech recognition. It has 3 languages: English, Chinese Mandarin, and Japanese. It takes a music XML file as input and outputs an audio file. So I edited the lyrics here using the same MIDI here, using the output here. So the number represent the tones in Chinese Mandarin. It sounds really robotic and not immediately recognizable. Also, there's some noise appearing.
或喜夫所以，夫喜或所夫，有生于无，万物生于有，万有生于无，尘埃终归于土。之所谓难将因果问复读。
So finally we come to summary and feedback. In this project, I explored AI-aided electronic dance music production with GenSynth, Magenta Studio, and Synthi. And from this experience, I found that AI-generated outputs heavily rely on further production, such as adjusting the velocities, the onsets, and you will have to use a good instrument, tweak the EQs, and add a ton of effects. Also, you will have to use pre-trained models, otherwise it will take too long for the process. So using AI is fast. Also, using AI for music production is fast, but you will need to be selective. That means there will be a lot of outtakes. And you can go really traditional or progressive with AI. For example, you can easily generate a 4-on-the-floor house drum beats and a pop vocal melody line. Also, you can do some more tweakings, for example, what I did with the percussions. Also, you can do some tweaking to make it sound really futuristic or alien sounding, like what I did with the percussions and the vocals. And finally, AI is very good for inspiration purpose. For example, you can generate a simple drum pattern and use that as a start point. Also, you can use vocal synthesizers for harmonics. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you and be well.